Ada and Albert are hosting a mini reunion with their childhood friends. Nora and Jim are the first ones to arrive. Ada and Nora are catching up with each other on the couch. Jim is having alcohol with Frank on the balcony. He tells him that he is not exactly a part of their circle, it just happened that he is Nora's brother. Chet and Gabby arrive. Chet playfully flirts with Deborah, an AI that Albert created, and laughs when Gabby, his girlfriend, enters the room. The group is having a light conversation in the living room. Nora asks Ada to bring out the alcoholic beverages. Frank and Jim return from the balcony to join them inside. Jim purposely annoys his sister and there is a slight commotion. Ada is pouring wine when the bottle accidentally slips out of her hand. The room falls silent for a few moments. Ada starts to be slightly frustrated and secretly asks Albert if they could just rewind time using Deborah. It turns out that the AI device Albert created is not only for technological functions, but can also rewind time to some extent. Albert is hesitant at first. Nora is piqued by their mysterious conversation and asks what is going on between them. The two ignore her and Ada calls out to Deborah. All of a sudden, they are back to the moment before Ada lifts up the wine bottle. Nora shoves her brother again like she did the first time she did when he was annoying her and thinks that she had a déjà vu moment. Ada and Albert know that it is not the case, but they did not say anything. This time Ada is able to pour the wine without dropping the bottle. It is now dinner time, and the group is seated at the dining table. Ada is preparing to serve the food, making sure everything is perfect. Nora is snooping around the kitchen, pointing out that their kitchen equipment is dull. As they are talking about different topics, Jim brings up that he feels uncomfortable with AI. It seems that AI is always listening to everything they say, and one day it might become self-aware. Deborah aims a humiliating joke at Jim and everyone chuckles except for him. Albert then shows them what Deborah can do and how he did it. He let it compose a song and play several other music. Everyone is amazed by his creation. Ada, on the other hand, looks at him a little impatiently since she already prepared their dinner. He stops Deborah for a while, and she invites their friends to have their dinner. After dinner, they have a toast as Albert thanks them for coming. Nora starts another toast with Chet and Albert since they are the original group. Everyone else who is not part of their original group looks at each other uncomfortably. Gabby offers a toast for Ada and Albert to relieve the awkwardness. Since a lot of them are not familiar with Frank, they ask him about what he does. He tells them that they might not be interested, and it seems bland, but they insisted. He shares about his studies, and Chet suddenly butts in, making it a joke. He leads the conversation, making it look like he, Albert, and Nora are the only ones enjoying. Gabby apologizes to Frank for Chet's behavior. Ada tries to join in, but it did not amuse the group and the three continue their conversation. Their topics become offensive more and more. The group has some more wine while they play a guessing game in the living room. Everyone is having a good time, but whenever Jim is making a joke they always think that he is being offensive. Nora accidentally spills her wine on the white carpet. She apologizes and quickly tries to clean it off. She tells everybody to continue playing the game, but the mood of the rooms is silent. Ada asks her in concern about how many glasses have she finished. They think that she had one too many. Chet also mentions that she has a tendency to become an alcoholic. Nora starts showing her irritation and calls them out for having dysfunctions like her. Albert mentions that even though they have their problems, they make sure that it does not ruin their life. The others chuckle at this, making Nora more fed up. She feels that this is a direct attack on her, and decides that since her problems are already brought up, why should not do each one of them? Nora starts with Chet, saying that Gabby is too good for him, and their relationship does not make sense. Gabby stares at her unamused, but she ignores it and proceeds to Ada. She says that Ada is too obsessed with Albert, and it seems creepy whether she really likes him or wants to be him. She points out that her brother, Jim, voted for Trump and jokes about Frank having a scandal hidden somewhere. She ends it with Albert, accusing him that he is too obsessed with success, and that he still could not move on with his high school feelings for her. Everyone is silent, and she keeps on taunting them. Albert finally orders Deborah to stop time. He and Ada are the only ones who are not frozen, and the two of them decided to rewind time to avoid the escalation of the situation. They convince themselves that it is the last rewind they will do. Albert orders Deborah to rewind time before Nora spills the wine. He picks up the wine glass and hands it to Nora to avoid the incident. They enjoy the night away and have a good evening together. Each of them settles for bed. Ada and Albert have their room together. Chet and Gabby are in bed in a different room. Nora and Jim are in different rooms in their beds. However, they all start talking trash about one another. Nora has a hard time getting sleep. She gets out of their room and finds Frank lying on the couch, singing to Ada and Albert's dog. Frank suddenly remembers what happened and why Nora spills the wine. He advises her about it, but both of them are confused as to why he said that. They shrug it off as just being drunk, and Nora says goodnight to him. The next morning, everyone is having coffee in the dining area. All of them seem exhausted even though they just wake up. Ada greets them joyfully and offers to make them pancakes. Seeing that everybody, aside from Ada, is having a rough start, Albert invites them to play a game. Albert and Nora are in the garage, and they find different mementos from they were in high school. Nora is delighted to see their old sweatshirt and they browse through their old picture. She tells him that she is happy to see him and hopes he is doing well. After a moment, Albert confesses that even though everything is great between him and Ada, he thinks about the opportunities he missed. He seems affected by what Nora said last night when she was lashing out at them, and before he rewinds time, Nora, not remembering it happened, is confused about what he is saying. He suddenly kisses her, and when he sees she is too stunned to react, he orders Deborah to rewind time again. This time he just gives her a friendly hug. Nora and Albert go to the living room to join the others. They are having a light conversation. Jim stretches his leg and is about to tip off a lamp on the side table. Ada hurriedly commands Deborah to pause time so she can sort things out. However, their friends notice the lapse in time and remember that Jim was about to tip off the lamp. Ada and Albert try to play it off, but their friends are not convinced. They finally explain that Deborah can pause and rewind time, but it has side effects so they should not mess with it. Chet immediately asks it to rewind time again and again. Only Ada and Albert are reminded this time, and everyone else watches in disbelief. They all go through the day playing games and chatting. Even though they all promise not to use Deborah, each of them rewinds time for their own convenience. They use it to win the games, to rewind conversation and say some things more politically correct, and all their minor inconveniences. The next day, Nora, Gabby, and Ada are at the dinner table talking with Jim. He starts talking about his sexist and racist opinions. Gabby is the first one to react, pausing time several times to calm herself down. However, Jim's opinion gets worse and worse until he gets heated up, taking it too far. Ada tries to calm him down, but Nora gets heated up as well to a point that she stabs his hand with a knife. Nora conveniently rewinds time back to when Jim was only starting his offensive tirade. This time she de-escalates the situation by having a good comeback. Jim gets up and goes outside with Albert to get some air. Albert starts a barbecue with the guys outside. Jim seems to have a glimpse of his stabbed hand before the time got rewinded. He starts talking about morality and how it matters if it is just a created concept to control human behavior. He becomes more unhinged as Chet taunts him to stab him since Jim already threatens to do so. Albert calms him down as he grabs a barbecue skewer. Chet taunts him more when he sees that Jim hesitated. Jim punches him and feels good about it. Chet starts heating up as well and picks a fight with him, but suddenly there is a time jump. Albert asks Nora to help him get some more wine bottles in the garage. She helps him out, and he suddenly kisses her. Nora gets instantly mad and he rewinds time. He did it again and rewinds time as she had the same reactions the first time. Nora, however, feels like she can remember what happened and asks him if he did rewind time. Albert tells the truth and explains that what she is feeling is a side effect. Rewinding time leaves the emotional residue they feel before the rewind. She asks him not to rewind time anymore when they are alone, but he lashes out saying that she is leading him on. He rewinds time again to change the way he reacted and promises he will not do it. The group is sitting at the dining table as Ada prepares their food. Chet grabs the cake with his bare hands and eats it. His friends laugh at him and Ada jokingly says again that Gabby is too good for Chet. This is the last straw for Gabby. She confronts everyone that the only reason Chet is acting the way he is because he is with his dysfunctional high school friends, excluding Frank since she does not know him. They are all silent for a moment, but after a few seconds Ada bursts out laughing at her and the group turns it into a joke while Chet looks at her apologetically. Being done with all of them, Gabby just rewinds time. This time, she eats the cake with her bare hands as the group watches her in astonishment. That afternoon, Chet and Frank are left together in the living room doing meditative stretches. Frank comments about Chet's life and beliefs too objectively, and this offends Chet. Ada sees Chet get pissed off and gets on top of Frank, choking him. She rewinds time to get Frank off, but the situation still escalated and she had to rewind time repeatedly until she finally had a chance to stop them. Ada walks out with Frank. He could remember himself being choked before the time rewound. He thinks that Chet was right, judging him that he is pretty deductive because of his personality, just staying on the side watching everybody else live their life. He confides with her saying that it makes him feel like an outsider. Ada sympathizes with her saying that she has been there and felt that as well, especially with the high school friends, Albert, Nora, and Chet. She suddenly gets triggered by the subjects of friends being like a family. They stop walking as Ada is already wheezing. Chet hands her a plastic bag in a panic to help her breathe. When Ada's breathing is finally in control, she shares the reason for her trigger since Frank already offers to help her. She surprised Albert by getting his DNA test and thought that it will be fun if she got one too. To her surprise, she found out that he is her biological brother whom their parents neglected. She cannot believe that this happened to her and starts crying in frustration. Frank offers her a hug to comfort her. She suddenly kisses her and Frank quickly avoids her, saying that that is not a solution to her problem. The situation becomes awkward, but Frank assures her that it is fine and that she is just going through a tough time. Ada asks Chet to help her make dinner. He and Gabby complain that all they did was eat so much during that weekend. Ada lashes out that they have to cook their meal as adults and it is the only right thing they have. Chet and Jim quietly help her in the kitchen. Ada walks out to the garage and peeks in the slightly open door. She sees Albert repeatedly kissing Nora and rewinds time as she gets mad at him. Ada starts walking away but doubles back and enters the room. 2 loud thuds can be heard from the hallway. Ada goes to the living room unhinged, with all of their friends sitting on the couch. Albert and Nora join them as she introduces her own creation, Blame. She tells them that she did not just become Albert's assistant for some time, but she was actually learning from him. She tells Nora that Albert was actually molesting her in the garage. Nora is in disbelief that she is unaware of what is happening. Ada goes on and tells her that she can have him and that she found out that they are actually siblings. Everyone is stunned by all the revelations and no one can say anything. Nora confronts Albert asking him if he could not do that to her. Albert tries to rewind time to get away from it, but Deborah refuses to. He then tries to defend himself, saying that she was leading him on and that he made sure that he is now worthy of her. Nora tells him that she is not just a prize for somebody. He retaliates, saying that she does not really matter. She does not have a life out there and is stuck in her high school life thinking only about the best parts of her life. They start going off and harshly saying their issues with one another. Frank tries to calm them down, but Jim shuts him off with his racist comeback. Nora attempts to calm them as well, but Albert shuts her off. Everyone then gets triggered and it becomes an all-in brawl. Frank could not do anything but watch as they stab and get on top of each other. Finally, he decides to knock them all off to stop them from eliminating each other. Night finally comes. Nora struggles on the floor and tries to ask Deborah to rewind time. Deborah asks her if they could change, and she swears that they could, but Frank comments doubtfully. She begs him to tell Deborah that they can change. Frank calls Deborah and says that they will change things. Deborah finally agrees and rewinds time to Nora, when she was the first one to arrive with Jim. She seems to remember the emotions she felt before the rewind. She starts to unhinge as she hugs Ada.